Hello, Ultimate Hoops Nation. My name is Reed Nelson. This is Izzy Alcafas. This is This Week in Rec. We are doing the winter playoff edition tonight. Very, very exciting time of year. How are you feeling?
Tired.
A little bit longer meeting than last season. We about 12:30. So different scheduling format this season. We'll go over that right away. What we did was we ranked seven committee members ranked their top 20 teams. If we had more than 20, and then we totaled all the points, which is what you see here. The Muskies came in at 21st place. They had 2 votes from 2 committee members, and that's how they qualified. So anybody who was below 20 had to have at least 2 votes from, or 1 vote from a Players Committee member, and then another vote from a Players Committee member. They qualified, which is why we have 21 teams this season. Let's talk about the top first, though. Lakers, obviously, unanimous. I don't know if that's ever happened. Have we ever had a unanimous?
Turtles did it twice.
Turtles did it twice. It's happened twice where we've had 2 unanimous, so this is the 3rd time. Huskies 2, Gorillas 3, 123-123. They were tied. We decided to keep the Huskies at 2. They were 8-0. The Gorillas were 5-3. You were on the other side of that argument. Talk about it.
Yeah, I had the Gorillas at 2, and it really has nothing to do with my squad. I had them at 2 because I feel that the Muskies 2 forfeits, or Huskies 2 forfeits, I mean, really shouldn't put that much stock into it. So maybe I look at them as a 6-0. But they had an easy schedule. They didn't play FOB. I believe they played the Avengers and lost, but they got that counted as a win. And then they beat the Nets. And then all the other teams in Fridley are just okay. You look at the Gorillas, the last 5 games, average margin of victory is 26 points, all against playoff teams. Just strength of schedule and what have you done for me lately? That's why I had them at 2. But it doesn't really matter because 2 and 3 is the same thing because they're going to play each other in the Final Four if they both get there anyways. Well,
and it's a Squires Showtime matchup. Both 2 teams are very similar. And then it's a Good Thumpers matchup.
Not necessarily because and this is why I'm unbiased, is because I saw that the Rebels were being discussed at 11. And I'm assuming that even though Squires beat them, the Rebels could easily beat the Squires, and that's a dangerous game for the Gorillas, Gorillas, and I put the I voted for the Rebels at 11, and it may have been split. I think 3-4. So I could have easily switched it up, but then I think it was fair. I think I had the Rebels at 8, so it would make no sense for me to vote for them any lower than that.
Red Devils 4, FOB 5, the defending champions at 5. There's obviously a gigantic drop-off there, 22-point drop-off from the 5 to the 6 team. Just I kind of give your general thoughts here between the Squires, Showtime, Blue Horns.
It fell into place how I had it. I had it at Squires ahead of Showtime, Showtime ahead of Blue Horns. What really surprises me is if we move down a spot to Callahan Auto Parts. You look at the resume is very poor. They have FOB as their win. That's their main hang your hat on it, which is important. However, I think it offsets with the loss to the Players Club, who didn't even get a vote to make the playoffs, and they were a 3-5 team. So that shows kind of nobody voted for the Players Club to be in the playoffs, even though they beat a top 10 team, right? But the Callahan doesn't get deducted for that being at 9. So that's kind of my beef. I had them a lot lower. I think I had them at 13 or 14.
So it's almost like the game never happened, in a way.
Yeah, because it offsets. I mean, FOB win, great. Players Club, not so great. You just offset them, and the rest of their schedule is awful. So that's how I had it. But
so Avengers at 10, obviously they get the Avengers get docked because of their forfeit losses. The Gorillas really didn't, and I think a lot of that is because the Gorillas got better. Now, obviously, Travis Johnson's a great player, but Ryan Spading is just a better fit on the team, whereas the Avengers definitely downgraded. That's still going to be a tough matchup for Showtime and then potentially the Huskies.
Yeah, and I dropped the ball on the Avengers. I had the Avengers initially at 13 in my rankings, and as these were coming down, I was just thinking about it, and I was like, I would probably, if I voted again, I would have the Avengers ahead of Showtime. The resume is much better. Showtime, I think, only... And they might have. I mean, they got a forfeit win over the Gorillas, which I don't really put much stock into. And then I don't think they beat many good teams on this list. So if I would have voted again, I would have had them at 7 instead of 13, that would have given them 6 extra points. had them tied with the Blue Horns, and we'd be having a completely different discussion. So I kind of dictated that unknowingly based on putting them at 13.
When you look at, if you were to put odds on teams, there's a big drop-off to where it becomes heavy underdogs. Is that between Rebels and Nets, or Nets and Broncos? Broncos a good thumb. Where does it drop off to say, I'd be really surprised if that team won?
It starts right here. The good thumpers with a full roster are as good as anybody from 14 to, you can argue, up to 2. They can compete with any of those teams. I don't think they can compete with the Lakers. They can probably compete with the Gorillas. But then after that, UNO, they would be huge underdogs against all these other teams. So, yeah, I say 14 teams are – any of these 14 teams could make the Final Four. 15 and under will probably get bounced in the first round.
I'd probably put the line at 11. That's just me.
Yeah, I mean, the Nets, though, you can't argue the Nets, the good thumpers, or even the Broncos can't make the Final Four. I mean, maybe not the Broncos. They look really poor. But I can see them making the Final Four. These other teams, I just can't.
Okay, you are Alanis Morissette.
Yeah.
It's much easier to say.
Yeah.
To 21, Muskies. Which team is the most likely to make a run to the Final Four?
Them. And I hate them so much. But I just got to be honest. I think that they haven't really shown it this year as much as they did last season, but they have cohesion that a lot of teams don't have, and they have firepower. They have guys that can really score. The thing that truly let them down is defense, and I think the reason why is because they lost D'Angelo Williams. Huge loss. Their defense was something to be feared last season, just grind it out, and D'Angelo is a pickpocketer. I think he won the Defensive Player of the Year last season.
Yeah, he averaged like 4.5 steals.
Yeah, he's just a beast. And I think they've taken a big hit there. But of those teams, them followed by Tropics. But I don't know how strong. I mean, losing DuPont has been a huge downgrade for them.
Okay, let's talk the 22 seed. There was really only talk about Big Smash. Now, obviously, with the way this system works, Big Smash would have had to have been the 20 seed, bumping them down to 20 and Muskies down to 22. Do you think they were wronged, or do you think they should be a part of this discussion or not? Because they did beat them, who you said could be a Final Four team.
So I will openly admit that I made a mistake. Again, I made 2 mistakes as I was doing my rankings, and it might have cost Big Smash a potential look at the playoffs. And I think if more people would have actually thought about it and given it more time, Big Smash would have been ahead, would have gotten 2 votes. And here's why. Johnny Football, this is the point I was trying to make. Johnny Football had 4 wins in a much weaker league, in my opinion, with a much easier schedule. And they didn't. Their best win came against UNO and the club. And I think them are better than both of those 2 teams. And I think they had a harder draw, and they kept it close with a lot of these good teams, whereas Johnny Football basically had a walkthrough. So, I mean, I would have had them at 19. I would have had Big Smash at 20. And I think maybe there would have been more open dialogue, and Big Smash could have gotten in based on that. And then we would have dropped, maybe Big Smash to 21, and then Muskies to 22. It would have opened up the field a little bit. But it just didn't work out. So
a couple teams are definitely on the outside. Players Club, Jesus Shuttlesworth, both squads. Trying to think of what other 3-win teams. But Players Club would have been the next team down. They beat Callahan. Were they wronged at all?
I think they were wrong that nobody even brought them up as a discussion, which brings me to the point that if this team is at 9, there's no reason why Players Club should not be discussed. Nobody brought them up, but then a lot of people voted for. Here's the thing. I think I had Callahan at 15. Okay, so if I have Callahan at 15 and they got enough votes to get the 9 seed, that means somebody must have had them at 7 or 6. So who has them at 7 and 6 or 7 or 6 but don't have the Players Club even mentioned in the top 20? So I think I think the committee, and I'm mistaken twice based on 2 of my rankings, but I think the other guys, I think we dropped the ball on this one.
We had a bad year or a bad quarter?
I think this is one of our worst showings. I really do. I think we just got to the end. We got up here. We spent a lot of time. And then we said, well, these guys are all the same. But just start jotting them down. I'm disappointed.
The forfeits are tough.
Yeah.
Because like I said, the Gorillas are my number 2 seed without a doubt, but they're 2 losses behind, or 3 losses behind the Huskies. They're 5-3.
Yeah.
So Gorillas are my championship pick. I picked them 5 weeks ago. They haven't lost since. I think they're going to roll to the Gold Cup championship. Who do you have?
Well, I would have been with you here, but the potential to play the 6 and 11. That's actually, out of all the teams that are below 5, I think those are the 2 toughest teams on that schedule, and we're going to face off against either one of them. So that worries me. The Huskies, not worried about at all. So I think if we get past these 2 teams, we'd face off against the Lakers, and I really think that the Lakers will have the easiest road to the playoffs based on looking at the road. Club Tropics, that'll be a walk through. Callahan and Blue Horns, that's basically a joke. So they'll make the Final Four without any trouble, and then they'll be left with maybe Red Devils or FOB. And matchup-wise, I think the Red Devils might give them a harder time just based on their size. Lakers will walk to the championship, and I think that's enough for them to win it. I think the Lakers will win, and I'll eat my words from the beginning of the season, but I'm a changed man. I changed my mind.
Okay, we're going to do some MVP discussion here. We revealed Antoine Lynch on Monday, defending back-to-back champion. You said he won't win. We've had a well, that's what you said.
Yeah, I did. Yeah,
we've had a lot of talk. A lot of fists were thrown in the players' committee meeting tonight about who the other 4 candidates were. We decided to stick with only 3 more.
Yep.
We couldn't find a 5th deserving person, somebody who stood out above everybody else. I tweeted this earlier in the week. Corey Rablin of the Good Thumpers. They're a 14 seed. They fell a little bit off towards the end of the season, but he was averaging like 20 and 16, I think.
28 and 15, I think.
Granted, some of those were inflated numbers. 4 and 4 against Showtime, he had 20-plus rebounds. Bad Boys 3, he had 20-plus rebounds. Rablin.
He was my vote until he didn't show up last night, and the Good Thumpers just coughed away that win to Squires. Like, they had it wrapped, and they just, there you go. So the Squires are a good team, and without Rablin there, you would expect the Squires to just run away with it, and they didn't. So I think that actually hurts Rablin. He's not going to get my vote. 6 games, a couple of them against sketchier opponents. He really needed to show up, and I think he needed to have a good game against the Squires and get his team another win to lock it up. And I think he opened the door for another candidate.
Candidate number 3, Kyle Ratty, 8-0 Lakers. Talk about him.
I think that if Ratty tried a little bit harder, I think he would be a top 3 player in this league. But he's a little nonchalant. He shows up, he just wants to get a good run, and he wants to shoot around. But he's just an animal. Like, he might be the most versatile offensive big man in the league. He does it all from any spot on the court. He's leading the Lakers in scoring, and he really probably only made the list because he's averaging a double-double, and Antoine Lynch, we don't want to keep giving the award to Antoine Lynch, especially from a subpar season, and he's been impressive for that Lakers team. So it's because they're 8-0, and he's played better than Antoine Lynch, in my opinion, is why he's on there. Do I think he can win it? I think he's, in my voting, I think he's 3rd.
4th player. I interviewed him one day. He told me he's a baseball player, so he was very flattered by how much credit he was getting. But Ryan Spading of the Gorillas,
yep.
And Alanis, correct?
No, Johnny.
Johnny Football. Sorry. Talk about his game.
Ryan Spading is he's just an animal. He's one of those guys. He's just quiet. Like, you don't really notice him, but he fills up the stat sheet and he impacts the game on both ends of the floor. He might be the best outside of Rablin. He might be the best in transition as a guy that plays the power forward center spot. He picks up 10 points for the Gorillas in these last 5 games just based on him grabbing a rebound or jumping a passing lane and then going up for a layup. He does everything besides shoot perimeter shots well. and I think he's number 1 in PPR in Fridley, number 2 in PPR in Bloomington South, and he took the Gorillas from likely losing in the Elite Eight after losing Travie Baby to Gorillas being your leading candidate to win the championship. I think his numbers are heavily. I mean, without him, Johnny Football maybe wins a game, maybe against the Spider Pigs. He's been that important for him, and he's been very important for the Gorillas.
Any other thoughts? Obviously, we're gonna be doing this again on Tuesday after the playing games. I'm assuming you'll be there.
It's tough. I mean, I like watch. Here's the thing. When I look at this, I'm not compelled by anything. There's nothing that really
Not
says.
Broncos them.
You know, I've seen it all before. You know, and they're not two powerhouses. I can't see. I don't know. It's a good game, but I'm not going to drive down to Bloomington to watch in traffic to watch them Broncos because the Good Thumpers Johnny Football is going to be a snoozer. You ain't no Lux Mob, no thanks. Club Tropics, that's intriguing. That's intriguing, but I have to wait till 9, and then plus in St. Louis Park if we win Monday.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Well, if we play Target Center team, for sure.
So you don't just want to come and film with me that night? That doesn't draw you down to Bloomington?
Oh, I guess if I'm in St. Louis Park, maybe I'll come afterwards.
Okay, maybe I'll find a new co-host.
I'll probably fold. It's probably because I'm really tired right now and I just want to sleep. Mm-hmm. So that's all I'm thinking about.
Maybe I just need to find a more dedicated co-host.
Yeah, okay.
Garbage.
Them were in Fridley.
Johnny Football is ahead of them because they voted the same
I
with
agree.
3.
No,
let me come up to the camera.
So,
Explain logically what this means.
No, them will be better than Johnny Football.
Who would they beat?
Them beat Showtime and Rebels, who are a 7-11 seed.
Thank you.
Johnny Football beat the 15 and 16 seed with a much easier schedule. Okay.
Weren't you
And them is below them at 20.
You were just bashing them for having a 4.
Nobody can explain it, but for some reason we're moving on because nobody cares about them and Johnny Football because there's no them or Johnny Football in this room.
Winning a game 5-on-4, and now it's we beat the 7th seed. That's a great win. You're all because you're terrible, and if you come prepared, I'd have been home 2 hours ago.